Hey guys, it's Simon. Good evening. Wanted to do a preview for tomorrow morning. The only comment I had about today that was really significant was it's hard when the days like when we have price action like we had this morning. It takes a lot for me not to trade. It's my natural state to be taking trades, right? And I end up spending a lot of energy not trading. And the one thing, all I want to say about that is I will, if I'm not careful with the self-talk that goes on in my head about adjusting to saying negative things about myself or just thinking I didn't do as good a job as I should have done, when in reality, sidestepping a straight-up market it's really an excellent job. That's what you're supposed to do to save yourself, right? So anyway, I did that. I accomplished it. I did a good job studying the zones. I was really quite tired by the time we got to the end of the day, and it would have been very, very doubtful that if I had taken the trades, that emotionally would have lasted through the process to hold for that downside move. So reality is I did a good job. I was tired this morning. I didn't sleep well last night. And to get out of here and pretty much read the market perfectly, I just didn't get a long setup this morning that I could take. Pretty happy with that, right? So as we speak right now, market's at 2106, 2106 and 3/4. We've had a Globex high of 2108.75. I would anticipate that buyers will still be in control when we get here tomorrow morning, right? I'm not sure what will break this. So I wanted to cover a couple things on the trade plan. So first of all, 2117 is the year-to-date high. Above it, all these zones up here, these are all guesstimations on my part. I'm usually pretty good at figuring out where we'll get exhaustion, but they're guesstimations. So what you need in this area is either a swing short confirmation, tick divergence, or a big fat rotation into this location and exhaustion, right? So these zones are not as solid as what they would otherwise normally be. There's not much you can do about it. There's no structure there for me to work off of. I'm usually pretty good at guesstimating these, but these are not automatic. Again, I think the better trades for us over the next couple of weeks will be to the long side. Let's look on the downside. So this is Globex low. I actually expect us to be able to push a little bit below that, hopefully in the morning, to test this 2100 to 2098.25. I expect responsive buyers first time in here. Again, you'll see these zones are pretty small below here, and the reason for that is that we're so thin when we auction through. I'm really trying to nail where I think the reversal location will be. That might come back to bite me, but I just didn't want a bunch of 2-point zones, and so I think these are where we're most likely to get the strongest reaction. I did not mean to do that. 95.25. That should say 95.25. At any rate, I expect responsive buys off of each of these locations. The first areas where I'm really, really interested in taking longs that I'm super highly confident, 2086.50 to 2084.50, that should read, and 2081.25 to 2079.25. I don't think we'll push beyond that. That's 22 down. We then would have a test on Monday's low, the open gap. I would expect a responsive buy back up, but you got to remember wherever we are when we first hit this trend line. This trend line is from all the way back. It's pretty strong. We've come off of it a couple of times. Let me see if I can pull in the picture. So we've come off of it once, twice, and I suspect the first time we come into this trend line, as long as it lines up somewhere near structure, whatever that structure is, I imagine we're going to get a pretty strong response. Again, it's a trend line. The structure is really what we're looking for, but it should get respected the first time. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not big on trend lines. My guess is, with the way the overnight is looking right now in Asia, that we will probably, it'll be very interesting if we're having to deal with this in the morning. That's all I can say. I'm not sure that we will. As far as the trap goes in structure, we really, the first test is, A, can we get below Globex low? And remember, we want both NQ and ES trading below Globex low first and foremost. And secondly, can we get below Tuesday's low or today's low? If those two things don't happen, particularly as Tuesday's low, nothing's bearish, right? It'll just be just like we had done today, a 10-point extension down, and then we've had a retrace almost all the way back up to 2110, 2108.75 has been the Globex high. The other thing I want to point out that's going to be very important to keep in mind for tomorrow is that this is a critical trap point still for NQ, and until we get below it, buyers are in firm control. And I expect the pattern to be predominantly to look like this. Okay. In the mornings, if we gap down, I expect a quick dip and then an attempted push. Even on days where we end up pushing down, I still expect an initial push out of the gate, especially on negative tick NYSE tick opens. We're just in a bull market again, and there's going to be responsive buyers every time we gap down, shorts who are just happy to be able to cover at any kind of profit, and that'll drive us up very, very quickly. I think the short side will be difficult, and I think if we're patient and we get some good long side entries, they could be very profitable. And I'm going to show you why I think that in a second. Secondly, for tomorrow, NQ has to break this trend line here. And remember, just because we break below it doesn't mean that we are going down. But in order to go down, this has to break. Okay, so again, NQ's trading up in the overnight session so far. So I'm not certain that we're going to get that opportunity. Other than that, it's the same trade plan. So I want to be clear so everyone understands. I'm going to do this one more time. That didn't do what I wanted to do. Wow, that's weird. Hold on a second here, guys. Okay, I got the charts back. So I want to be clear with where I'm looking at taking trades. I expect responses off of each of these levels as we push in. Okay, I expect responses back to the upside from each of these. These two ranges or these two zones are 1 point instead of 2. I'm simply trying to pinpoint what is otherwise a fairly poorly auctioned area. This is also fairly poorly auctioned. This area is just a little bit easier to figure out where I thought we would get the responsive buyers out of. And I may still need to fine tune it just a little bit, but I'm pretty sure, I'll go back through here and look, but I'm pretty sure 8650 to 8450. I may need to bump that up just a little bit. Again, I'm going to double check this 8650 to 8450. I'll check it in the morning when I have some fresh eyes. But 91 and a quarter to, 81 and a quarter to 79 and a quarter, I expect a responsive buy. Between Monday's low and the open gap, I expect a responsive buy. And then at last week's low, I expect a responsive buy back up. If we look on an extreme stretch, 2102 would bring us down to 2172. This is 30 down. Really, anything after 21, really anything below 2184.50, I'm very cautious on pushing shorts, and I'm looking for a hook back to the upside out of all these levels from here down. I'm pretty much focused on upside moves, not short side moves. You got to remember psychologically when I look and go, oh look, we've broken this and it's all Armageddon, and it just doesn't work that way. So lastly, the last thing I want, so just to be clear, I think the best trades are going to come from rotations lower to generate us good long trades with pushes to the upside. That's my trade plan going forward until I see us get a significant break. When we look on the volume profile right now, the areas you want to keep a track of here, this, there we go. So on volume profile, we're making a stretch, right? This is where I'm measuring the 50-60 from. It's from this gap, the bottom of this gap. Okay. And that puts our 50-60 sitting right now at 2032 to 2014. I expect responsive buys the first time we get into here. Obviously, we'll close at 2103. I don't think we're going to dump 70 points overnight or even in tomorrow's session to test it. So this is a couple of days away at best, right? Additionally, from this gap, this was the swing low. There's another 50-60 that goes from this swing low to today's high. And that's sitting right here at 2081 to 2073. So again, at that 2081 area, I expect a strong responsive buy back to the upside. I'm looking for an excuse to get long in that area, first time in, and I will be very focused on that area for a long side setup. There's really not much else to discuss. Buyers are large and in charge, and there's no reason to mess with, in my eyes, with wasting a lot of energy for anything other than a scalp, trying to find the downside trade. Yes, there will be a big down day coming up, but just think about it. I've really been pretty cautious on the short side all the way up through here. This is a almost 200 points, ES points, right? And no one got run over to the short side, right? Maybe we had a down day or two, but no one got bone crushed. The zones have really been placed well, and we've really been patient. Don't let your emotion get the better of you. This thing can go a long way. And what I wanted to show you on that was this piece here. So this is going back to the beginning of this year. Remember? So if you remember about this time, right? September, October, November, market was making a swoon, right? And so what I want to focus on is this area right in here that we pushed right into December, right? Notice that we came off, we had a huge rebound, we gap up, and then all of a sudden we start hitting new highs, right? So what does it look like when the market starts setting new highs? So the first thing I want to do is I want to come and take this area. Let's take a closer look. So let's highlight it. And I want to talk about this immediate area right here. And then let's go look at a 5-minute chart. There it is. Okay, so if we look at a 5-minute chart, now let's spread this layer. Let's get rid of this. So you'll notice, first of all, when we broke above a new high, we broke above, then we came back low, and it looked like we trapped back below, and then we gapped a second time, and the second time is where they really trapped them, right? So what worked? So first of all, you'll notice, how do we know that this was going to fail? We came right up to the year-to-date high, reject off, and you'll notice still the best trade was to the long side. We can have a trade that looks just like this, right? Gap right into the high, reject down, look like it's going to go to zero, and then have it come all the way back up, bounce, and push at the end of the day. Let me open this up so everyone can see this. Okay, and again, what I would do is I'd go back to 1031 of last year and study this price action, right? We gap up right to the year-to-date high, reject hard off of it from 1980 all the way back to almost 1970, 10-point rotation, and then we come back up. We try to break out a structure. This exact pattern that I'm always pointing out, we push down, unable to push to lows below this, basically halfway through this poorly auctioned bar here. Trap back in, push back up, unable to set new lows as we're coming down here, right? Just simply can't do it. We trap shorts, we're trying to get the rollover to the downside, squeezed at the end of the day. Gapped above, come in just past gap fill, right? And then look, we trap, see how it's trapped back in here? Here's the structure, rejecting out of structure, trap back in, strong push to the upside, and then again, here's the structure of the body, here's the trap back in, push back down to the downside. We ended up with a two-sided market when we first broke out. We then break it, right, gap up, fill the gap, push down, but again, look, if you're pushing to shorten this, why just watch, what's working out better, shorts or longs? Shorts or longs through all of this. Again, notice it goes to a two-sided market, and yeah, there's some shorts in here, right? There's some shorts, but for the most part, if we look for the traps in here, and I'm just going to point this out really quick, just go through here, right? We've broken out, push below, trap back into structure, push, right? Again, break below, trap back into structure, and this is a big push back into structure here, right? Structure was all the way up here, push, trend day up. Gap down, they try to push lower, traps back into structure. In this particular case, it came back for one more test to attempt to break the new low. Again, can't do it. Traps back into structure a second time. Pushes, we trap back into this structure over here, and they make an attempt to the push down, and again, shorts get pushed at the end of the day, right? Long side seems easier to me there. Consolidate sideways, unable to push lower. Shorts are screwed, and they push it up at the end of the day. Again, sideways consolidation. You'll notice the swifter pushes are to the upside here, right? Rotations down, even the first 15 minutes. Notice that looks like an open drive lower, but it's within the prior day's range. No damage. Gap down, negative tick, immediate response to buyers, push, just past the 50-60 retrace, and then for another push back up. This was a case of where we pushed, we failed, right? See, we trapped back into the range right here, pushed all the way down. Notice that there's no structure off to the left to trap back into, right? It finally comes down, we establish structure in here, and actually this becomes the trap point right here where we broke. We trap back into that range right here. We do a retrace, push at the end of the day. Okay, that one's not quite as clear, but nonetheless, this is the one day where the short side worked. You just had to be nimble here on your trade location. And you also notice 2112 to about 2002, 10-point rotation gives a pop up. Again, 2005, 1995, another 10-point rotation, pop back up. So you'll notice in all of these that there's just a consistent, right? There are some rotations down, but consistent pops up, and particularly in the afternoon, right? Most days, buyers have control at the end of the day, and trying to fish for shorts was completely ineffectual in here. Even the one day where the short really worked nicely, we had a huge gap and a push back down. So, and even there in the afternoon, unable to maintain the push down, and it pushes back up. I'm just saying, if you'll be patient, look for these traps back in. Pushes to the upside off of rotations down will, in general, be easier. And here's the other part I want to point out. You're very susceptible to having days like this where we just have grinders to the upside when we're breaking the new highs. And if you'll just sidestep the shorts, you can avoid taking those days where you'll have 2 4-point stops back to back by, I think, focusing on the long side. Not that the short side won't work, but just look how many days and look how long it was before you really got a short side move. It was weeks once we moved in. And then if you look, what do? We come right back for a backside test. They attempt to trap back below, right? We attempt to hold below for a couple of days. We get above, we gap away, and then it's right back off to the races. And again, shorts are just getting bone crushed in here. It's usually just a couple of days of swift downside and then move strong into the upside again. And I'm just have a preference for looking for long side trades out of this and sidestepping days like this. So, and you'll notice on days when we're getting like this, there's no trap back into structure. If you can wait for the trap back into structure, you can get some super, super nice trades. Anyways, guys, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. I think the longs have it. Shorts on stretches are probably still fine. Tick divergence, they're probably still fine. And the zones, you'll notice, work perfectly today. I'm not going to do a trade review because I'm tired. But the zones work perfectly today. They just got busted yesterday. I'll probably be back to taking them with 20-minute limits to make them work. But I prefer the long side. Anyways, have a good night, guys. I'll see you all in the morning. And any feedback I can get from you all would really be helpful on this stuff. I'm going to go get my full 8 hours of sleep tonight. Talk to you later.